Hey everybody, it's HillsidePrepper552 here. It is Monday morning, about 11:30. It's May 10th. So last night in the first video I did for the channel, one of the things talked about was getting gas early, getting it yesterday. Well, the reason for that we're going to get into today, on top of some other things we want to talk about, is the fact that one of our pipelines was attacked by ransomware last night. Actually, not last night, it was over the weekend. But if anybody's not familiar with how ransomware attacks work, so basically it can happen any various ways. It can happen if someone opens an attachment in an email. So, for example, for one of the hospitals I used to work for before I worked there, we had a cyber attack where an employee opened up an email. It was one of those phishing emails, and then someone got into there, and whoever the hacker was, had access to all the medical records. They were able to shut down all the various aspects of the cyber network and made it impossible for anybody to do anything. So we went back to paper charting and paper documentation of who's coming in the emergency room, who's coming in for outpatient procedures, whatever. And they wouldn't release it until the hospital paid up with cryptocurrency or in Bitcoin. And that seems to be the common theme with these ransomware attacks. The reason why they do that is because it's not traceable. The cryptocurrency isn't. And a lot of these guys go through the dark web, the deep web, whatever you want to call it. So with cryptocurrency on the rise and it's not really traceable, this is what they want to, this is how they go for it, and this is how they hack people. So according to the NBC News, this was posted last night and was updated this morning. This is by Ken Dillonian and Kelly O'Donnell. And once again, we're going with a Russian criminal group, which they're called Dark Side. And apparently they're a sophisticated new group, but they have an approach to business of extortion. So this is supposedly the one that's attacked the pipeline. Now the pipeline that's under attack is the Colonial Pipeline. This is a pipeline that runs 5,500 miles. It's based in Georgia and it accounts for 45% of all the fuel in on the eastern seaboard. So anything from Houston all the way up to the New York harbor, this is where most of the fuel comes from. Now, the cyber attack only shut down portions of the business side of things, but even at that, when it's not affecting the operations, you still have to shut that stuff down because otherwise the hack could continue and it could affect the operations side of things. So, what does this mean? Well, everybody's running to the gas pumps yesterday to get gas at the cheaper price because it, specifically where I am, it's about $2.97. Now, looking at the AAA website, which I'll post this on the links down below, if you look at the national average for the fuel price is about $2.967 as of today, and it can show you the different maps. So, for example, I'm clicking over my home state, New York, and we're averaging about $3. Look at California; they're averaging $4.10, and that's about the high end of pricing. So, somewhere like California, Arizona, those places aren't really going to be affected by this. But if we have a gas shortage like we did in the 1970s, then you're going to start seeing prices go up even with demand. So that's why prepping is important. That's why yesterday a lot of different preppers like Pinball Preparedness, Prepper Nurse One, all those guys said, go fill everything up while you can at a cheaper price, and that way you have it too, and so you're not running out of it because we use fuel for everything. We use it to heat our homes. We use it for our vehicles, lawnmowers, whatever you can think of. And now that we're getting into the summer months, we need especially more fuel to run all of our little, pretty much I say toys, but really they are just our yard work stuff. But you want to look at the energy crisis back in the 1970s. You have to think about it this way. I wasn't born in the 70s, so I wasn't familiar with it. But just doing some research on it, OPEC placed an embargo on the United States for their part in the war back then. But during the twin oil shocks of 1973 and 79, oil supplies dropped and prices soared, and the average citizen understood the energy crisis to mean a panic at the pump. Some people talked about certain days where you could get gas where if your license plate ended in a certain number or letter or whatever, that you went on like a Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday or something to that effect. Could we see that here now? I don't know. I was just reading an article this morning about that, and it's all going to depend on how long it takes for the cyber attack to be over. Significant impacts probably not going to happen if we get this resolved before Wednesday. But if you're looking, a week to a month and this is still not resolved, we're going to have shortages. All the oil refineries are going to have to slow down their production of oil. So this is a big deal. And when we start running out of fuel, or they start holding it because they can't, pipe it out, no one's going to get it. So this is just a good part of prepping that really should be on top of while the gas prices are still halfway decent. Now I say decent because last week we had an 8-cent raise up here. We were paying, between the 260s and the 280s the last couple of weeks, but last week it jumped up 8 cents, and like I said, we're at 297. Now I did have to run down and do some errands this morning, and I did notice the gas price is still relatively the same at 297, but again, that was at like 9:30, 10 o'clock this morning. So it's bound to change by the end of the afternoon, and it's going to change based on, what other gas stations in the area are doing and what's going on with this cyber hack and if there's any resolution to it. Now, on the NBC article, the Commerce Secretary, Gina Raimondo, I can never pronounce it correctly, said that the White House is working to help. So whatever you want to take away from that, but I always remember the reason for prepping is government's not going to come and save the day on everything. I mean, you can use Hurricane Katrina. You can use the hurricane down in Florida. I can't remember which one it was, but you can use that one down in Florida where in the nursing home, all the aides and all the workers left, and it was 100 plus degrees, and you had elderly people dying with no air conditioning. So you can't rely on the government for everything. Prepping is all about being self-sufficient, and in situations like this where you're not going to be able to get fuel, well, what's your next alternative? If we're in a total breakdown of the grid and the system, there's other means you're going to have to travel by horse or bicycle or older technology. But here it is today, Monday, May 10th, and we still don't know what's going on with this cyber attack. Is this something that really is an outside source, or is this what some people think is planning? Who knows? But if you haven't gotten fuel, now is the time to do it. So the oil shortages back in the 1973, 1979 could really be lessons learned from it, but again, still not lessons learned at all. We still have people who don't really put anything aside money-wise and don't really plan for cyber attacks. And this is what prepping's all about. When you're prepping, there's no panic. I mean, yeah, it's a little bit of a panic to see that there might be a gas shortage, especially if you got to drive, north 60 miles one way and then you have to go, south 30 miles one way to go to the doctor or something like that. But if you prep for that, it doesn't really become an issue. It becomes an issue when those supplies start to run out and the problem continues. But so you keep prepping. Now, the interesting thing is, too, the word hyperinflation's been coming up a lot lately. That's something we're going to be talking about quite a bit when things get rolling a little bit more with this channel. The hyperinflation, really, Angry Prepper's been talking about it a lot. We can see that the United States government's been just pouring money out with all these stimulus checks, yet a lot of people still don't have their federal taxes back yet. So, for me, 10 weeks at this point. Filed February 22nd. Still waiting. Here we are, May 10th, for anything. You can't call them, and you can't call taxpayer advocates. And it just shows, once again, this is the reason why I'm going to continue to prep without help from anybody else. Yeah, having the taxes back would be great, and be great to pay some of my bills with that. The stimulus was great, but it didn't last long. But you can't rely on the government for everything. It's self-sufficiency. And if we get into a hyperinflation situation, some people are saying that we're not going to act like Venezuela, but we're probably going to head down that road. My prediction is we will get to a point where we're pretty close to Venezuela, I think. I don't know. I could be wrong about it. I'm not an economist, but just seeing the trends of things, seeing the money that's pouring out, seeing how the president's budget is now a $7 billion spending plan. And the number I got that from is they showed it on Fox News a few days ago. It was one of their headlines on the bottom. But, we poured out how much money for the stimuluses already, 3 stimulus checks, which I get it. Some people lost their jobs, and that's why we have unemployment insurance and everything like that. But we can't keep pouring money out when it's time to restart the economy and get people back to work. A lot of small businesses went out. People lost not only their jobs, but they lose health insurance. They lose the ability to take sick time. So with the sick time, you can have a day off if you're actually sick, or like if you had caught the COVID-19 and you needed a whole week off. Well, you're not losing any pay. But it's beyond the point. So we're pouring money out. We're getting ready to go into hyperinflation. Definitely our dollar's not worth what it used to be. Looking it up on Google this morning, if you were to compare euros to dollars, the euro is about 120 of a US dollar, and reversed US dollar is worth less. It's like 0.80 euro or something like that. So if you do a 1-to-1 ratio, our value of our dollar is going down quite quickly, and the buying power that it had back in the early 1900s and 1950s doesn't nearly have the buying power that it has now. So what do we do for that? You just invest in some other types of things, gold, silver, the precious metals, because that is a guaranteed market that's been around for, literally thousands of years. That's how we've bartered. So this is how trade works. If you just kind of remember back to your old, I don't know what grade they teach it in because it's always different, but we're talking about the old Stone Age, the new Stone Age, whatever. When we're talking about civilizations like Rome or Greece, well, how did you trade for things? It could have been, I have 2 chickens, I need a goat, so I'll trade my 2 chickens for a goat. Or, hey, you have some metal, I'm going to trade that for, I'm going to give you, I don't know, some copper or something like that. So the precious metals can help you buy things. It's a good investment to have. Now, silver is relatively cheaper, a lot cheaper than gold. If you go to the AppMax website, which I will also put on a link down below, just looking at the numbers for the day, and the charts are nice because you can look and see what the trends are from a month to 6 months, a year to date. So what was exactly on this day last year, and you can go back 10 years. But just looking at today, silver is at $27.61 per ounce. And really that's the spot price. So if you look at it per gram, it's about 89 cents, and per kilo is about $887. It's a lot cheaper than gold. Gold spot price right now is $1,847.20. Platinum and palladium I don't really deal much with. I've never seen them actually in the form of like the silver, like the rounds and the bars. But anyone who's curious, in those, platinum's at $1,283 and palladium's at $3,034. So these are really just some kind of important things to think about. Silver investment, if you look at it, let's go back 1 year with it. So I mean, the trend, it's gone up. The pricing, if you go back to June 2000, or actually May 11th, 2020, the spot price was $15.65. So we're up, $12. But silver is important to get now because that's one of the things they want to be talking about in a congressional hearing. I don't know if they did already or if they're planning to do it, but they want to talk about why the price of silver is so low. So that, to me, tells me that people with a lot more money want to get their hands on it and make that market go way up, so someone who's in the average middle class won't be able to grab it at a decent spot price. So now's the time to not only get up on fuel, but now's the time to get up on those precious metals like silver. Last I checked, if you bought the 1 ounce rounds or the 1 ounce bars, you bought 5 of them, it was like $100 to $200 or something like that, depending on what you buy. But the AppMax is really good place to get silver. I'll put that in the description down below. AppMax ships it really fast. You can go to the website, or they have an eBay site as well. And, just for prepping purposes to look at the stock market, I don't play around with the stock market, but, some things are up, some things are down. So those are things to keep an eye on. Crude oil is down today. Can't imagine why crude oil would be down. It's down 0.39. The barrel price is at $64.51. So in the future, for the next few days, the things to keep an eye on is really going to be the oil, the price per barrel of oil, and the cyber attack. So we want to keep an eye on the news with all those things. So I'll definitely leave some links down below. Again, try to be careful with some of these sources like NBC, but it's something that if you type into Google, it's something that comes up quickly. So I have the links for that down below. The links for silver are the AAA gas prices, an article on the 1970s oil shortage, and the link to the Yahoo stock market. So you can check out all those resources, and it'll help with your prepping. And we're going to continue to prep no matter what. We may be we may be heading for some hard times, and we may not be heading for some hard times. It doesn't matter. You always have to be prepared either way. Communications as well. That's another thing we're going to be talking about on the channel. I showed my 2 radios the other day, but you have to think about what happens when this thing goes down. If you can't get internet and you can't call out with it, this is not a hard landline. The thing with these cell phones is, especially in an area where I'm at, our cell phone tower goes down at least once a month. So if you're working in emergency services and you need to be your work needs to get a hold of you and your cell phone tower is down, it's something to think about. So just little small things. The whole prepping thing is not just about this one giant big event like let's say an asteroid's going to hit or the apocalypse are coming, but prepping really is just, are you prepared for something to happen where if an event lasts 2 weeks, do you have food, do you have water, do you have everything that you need to survive that event? That's where the word self-sufficiency comes in. So that's going to do it for this episode. If there's any updates, I'll be posting it later. But this is HillsidePrepper552, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.